I learned an awful lot from Mr. Rockefeller. And one of the things that we used to talk about was the ultimate plan of the banking industry, what they wanted to accomplish. The whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is giving me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish.
For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. Malachi chapter 4 and verse 1. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Aharon coming back at you with another lesson, lowering to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. And just wanted to go into a quick lesson here. Today, I believe, is let's see, what's today? The 13th. All right, Sunday the 13th, 2025. And there's a lot going on. All right, I just saw a video where I believe the governor of Pennsylvania got his house burned down, or at least there was a fire that was set to his house. All right, so that's all going into a biblical prophecy as we read in the book of 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter. All right, going into they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Okay, so when you have governors, presidents, prime ministers, mayors, and so on and so forth getting their properties being attacked, or they themselves being attacked very soon, that's going to be commonplace. All right, that's all part of the signs that the Lord gave Ezra to write down, so us in these last days could look at as a guide or slash direction. All right, or slash a temperature check, kind of like to see, okay, where are we in prophecy and what's next? And that leads me to what we have here. As a matter of fact, there's a whole lot that we have here. But I want to just touch on a few headlines. Okay, I'm on the website known as biometricupdate.com. And I'm only on here simply because from time to time I check in here just to see what kind of updates they have in regards to digital IDs, biometrics, and so on and so forth. All right. And kind of like give you an idea of, where we are, all right, in prophecy in real time. Okay, so as is written in 2nd Esdras, the 9th chapter, that we're measuring the times diligently in itself. Okay, and we're doing so by closely looking at current events, whether it be, in this land here or geopolitically. Okay, and we're filtering them through the scriptures as they come by, right? And we know that everything is leading to the fulfillment of the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, going to the MOTB, as we coin it, but is actually the mark of the beast / RFID microchip. Okay, and that's fast approaching, right? We're seeing a system being built, all right, for that, all right? And I'm not going to, well, I might, but I'm just going to touch on a few headlines here that kind of caught my eye, right? Because we're going into all part of the causeth, right? As a matter of fact, let's get that real quick, and then we're going to jump into this. All right, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 13, and verse 16, it says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." Okay, so that causeth, go to our word causeth, it means to prepare, to construct, to fashion, right? To get something ready for something later down the line. Okay, and if you've been paying attention and tracking it, at least listening to and watching our videos, you kind of have an idea of where we are in prophecy. Okay, and part of the causeth we're going to read here. It says here, oversight measures passed to monitor NYPD surveillance tech expansion. Okay, and that's all going into what this guy Larry Ellison spoke about a couple of months ago with Oracle, right? How they're going to be able to incorporate Oracle or any other software that they can use as a form of surveillance, right? Kind of like what you have in China, but they want to expand it, right? It's surveillance across all fronts, right? Every department, every facet of the game will go under surveillance. Okay, going into the concept of panopticon. Okay, meaning all seeing. Okay, so here just a little bit. It says in a significant move towards enhancing transparency and accountability, and that's they always use these buzzwords, right? Transparency and accountability. These are things that people hear, and it makes them a lot more, acceptable of whatever it is that these devils are working on. Right? Because if you tell them what it is, or if you tell people what it is, then they're going to be alarmed. But if you use words like transparency and accountability, then it garners support, right? Because that's what people would like to hear. But that's not always the case, right? It says the New York City Council passed a suite of bills this week that are aimed at regulating the NYPD's use of surveillance technologies. The legislative measures seek to address long-standing concerns about the department's deployment of advanced surveillance tools such as facial recognition softwares, drones, and robotic devices, which have been criticized for operating under a veil of secrecy. Okay. It says Council member Jennifer Gutierrez, chair of the Council's Technology Committee, emphasized the necessity of these reforms, stating that the NYPD has consistently demonstrated a pattern of secrecy and non-compliance, thereby necessitating legislative intervention to protect New Yorkers from unchecked surveillance and potential abuse. And anyone who knows how these devils actually operate, we know that this is all a farce, okay? They're all working together. The mayors are working with the judges are working with the courts are working with the police are working with, the governors, right? They're all working together. It's all one huge game, and the people are being played, okay? So all these things that they say, oh, we're doing this for the New Yorkers. Nah, we don't believe that. We don't buy that. Stop it. We never asked you for it. Okay, all this new age technology that's coming, people didn't really ask for these things. They kind of just come out with it and say, oh, look, see, there's a problem. This is going to solve the problem. You just have to accept it. It says one of the pivotal pieces of legislation mandates the NYPD to develop and publicly share a comprehensive policy outlining the procedures and regulations governing its use of facial recognition technologies, right? So facial recognition technology is just a step before they bring out the MOTB that's going to be put in people's brains, all right, which is going to be scanned pretty much the same way as you do right now with your face, right? So that's all going into biometrics, right? Being able to go to the airport, okay, and you just scan your face and you can just go through without any hassle, right? I just saw a video of the guy who he used to go by the name A Call for an Uprising, but his name his page that I was watching was we've got ones that can see. All right, he just did a lesson or a video going into how the UN is coming together to create this this new AI regulation, right, which is all going to biometrics for travel, air travel, and so on and so forth, right? And when you actually go into what they're saying, right, when you actually decode the messages, it's basically saying, look, we're at the stage where we need to come in full-fledged, full force on these people. Okay, we need to actually have some form of total control over air travel, right? When you have over 150 different air travel incidents, that's just in the past 3 months alone, that's all what problem, reaction, solution. So when they come up with all these solutions, it's going to make sense to the people that, oh, look, these kind of things are there or implemented to bring some form of safety and security and certainty, right, to the lives of travelers around the world. Okay, so these are all AI being implemented slowly but surely, right? So it says here, this policy must be accessible on the department's website and is subject to annual audits to ensure compliance, right? So those who are going to be doing the audits are those who used to work in the feds or work with the feds, or sometimes vice versa, right? So you might have somebody who's working with, let's say, a company like Pfizer, right? Because I know this has happened in real life too, right? This guy called Scott Gottlieb, Okay, I forget what he does now, but he was on the board with so-called Pfizer. And then all of a sudden, the same people that have to regulate what Pfizer is creating or bringing out, you know what I'm saying? Was it Pfizer or Moderna? It was one of them. It was one of these pharmaceutical witchcraft companies, you know, and then he jumps on board to the FDA, who's supposed to be regulating these kind of medications and drugs and so on and so forth, this witchcraft shit, right? So it's like, what are we doing? The guy who, it's cui bono, he stands to benefit, right? I was once part of those who are creating the medication, right, to give to the public. But the medication has to be regulated. See, I have stocks, I have money, I have investments and so on and so forth in the success of this said drug. So what I do is my friends who are in the FDA, I kind of be buddy with them. I get a position. I leave the drug companies. I set everything up, give them directions, what they need to do. In a couple of years, I switch over to become part of the regulators. And then with my influence, I'm able to make them bypass certain restrictions that might otherwise restrict or stop me from, or stop these companies from actually pushing through with their witchcraft drugs. Okay, they're mental drugs, I call it, right? So it's always a win-win for them. They're always switching boards left and right. You know, this guy creates it, and then he jumps onto the board that's supposed to regulate what he created, and then he passes it through. And then the public, they don't know none of this stuff. So to them, oh, the FDA approved it. Yeah, the people who are part of the FDA who approved it are the same people who are part of those who are creating the same exact drug. You see, so that's how they kind of work around, you know, this whole regulation shit. That's why you never take FDA seriously. Okay, Food and Drug Administration. Why the hell do we have food and drug in the same sentence? Well, only them know. All right. So continuing, it says, actually, no, I'm going to stop right there and jump into this article here. And actually, instead of reading through it all to save some time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the titles. All right, just to give you a heads up that these things are happening. Right, we're in the stage where Esau is actually making his move. You know, there's no longer, oh, soon they're going to be doing this. Nah, they're doing it right now. Okay, they're doing it right now. Okay, it says gov.uk to grow while private sector digital ID app adoption flattens, Juniper. Okay, and then just let's read a little bit. It's probably like the first paragraph, just to get a little idea of what the article is actually talking about. Once it loads, there you go. Right, it says nearly 20 million people in the UK are about to adopt digital identity apps. See? It's all leading to the MOTB. This is according to a new forecast from Juniper Research. It says the introduction of the gov.uk app is spurring a wave of adoption, according to the report, but will also flatten demand for private sector digital ID apps, the report says. The digital ID and verification in the UK market 2025 to 2029 report argues that the introduction of the government app, the adoption of private sector digital identity apps will grow by only 9% from 2025 to 2029, while the ranks of gov.uk users will spike 267% from 6.9 million this year to 25.5 million. Okay, because that will give 45% of UK adults a digital identity app, with the presence of both government and private sector digital identity apps and digital wallet, enabling the market to overcome common concerns around privacy. Okay, so they tied in your app, your identity, and your wallet, your digital wallet. It's all tied in. Okay, it's all tied. It says, in order to retain a role within the digital identity ecosystem, it's all biometrics, third-party identity providers must seek certification against the government's trust framework, or they will be bypassed by certified providers and lose out on additional revenue, says report author Thomas Wilson. Okay, so that's a little bit on the UK growing, the UK.gov growing while private sector digital apps flatten. Okay, it's just the private shit is something they create to see how people react, and once they see that, it's not enough people using this shit, they make it a little bit more convenient but then they switch it over into the government sector. So that way you have to use it. Though it comes off convenient, it's kind of like the only thing that you got to do anyway. That's just the way of things, right? That's how they do things. So it's always step by step, gradualism. But like I always say, we are in the stage of accelerated gradualism, right? It says chaos and consequences in Trump's government-wide digital overhaul, right? U.S. The GSA, which is the General Services Administration, right, under the influence of Elon Musk and Doge, all right, they're switching everything into digital. Okay, so that framework, the whole 500 billion or whatever, however much this guy is spending on the Stargate shit, it's all coming to fruition, right? It says, there's another one. It says, Scottish Biometric Commissioner launches consultation on LFR with police. Okay, let's read a little bit about that, see what they got going on. All right, and LFR represents live facial recognition, all right? Maybe we might not even get into that. All right, it says France simplifies access to digital ID platform for ID card holders. Okay, it says French airports consider reusing Paraf e-gates for EES. Okay, which is European entry entry exit system, EES. Okay. Denmark awards $4.4 million contract to Deft of digital ID wallet, or development of digital ID wallet. Okay, so Denmark is off to the races with their digital ID creation. Okay, Germany's new government pledges support for digital ID. Okay, so we're seeing the majority of these countries that make up make up NATO and EU. Right, you got UK, all right, you got Germany, okay, you got France, all these different countries, Denmark, okay, they're all working together, all right, to bring about this MOTB system. Okay, let's get to the next page, see what we got. Yeah, there's not much time left, man. They're moving very quickly, but see, they're doing it in such a deceptive way that people actually are ending up they're supporting all these things without really fully understanding what this thing will end up becoming, you know. And that's why they don't want us talking about it, because we're waking people up to the end goal of all of this. See, people are seeing the process and they think that's where it ends, but we're seeing it as this is the beginning of the end. These are steps they're taking. These are steps. They can see this shit and they're like, oh, that's just a step. That's it. That's the last. No. These are steps leading to something else, right? It says SIA, which is this Secure Identity Alliance, ADIA, which is Accountable Digital Identity Association, partner to advance trusted digital identity. So they're all coming together. These various corporations are all coming together, right? And they're working closely with the governments, right? PPP, private-public partnership, okay? It says Zambia, this is Africa now, right, commences nationwide mobile campaign for insurance of $3.5 million ID documents. And I did a lesson on this a couple of days ago, Social Security Administration, about how they were going to make people come do the registration in person because of some technical difficulties that they were having, so to speak, right? Now they're saying that they've reversed it, right? Because people had, it's backlash, obviously, there's still a lot of people who are still not up to game when it comes to this digital stuff, right? So they have to work it into it, right? So SSA reverses in-person identity verification course again, right? But they'll bring it back. It's just a pivot. Always remember that when they bring something new and people react how they don't want them to react, they pivot. They don't stop it, they pivot, right? They wait a little bit and then they bring it about in a different way. They repackage it and then sell it again. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you went to a store, the beef looked like it got mold on it. It's disgusting. It kind of got a smell to it. Oh, okay, no worries. We don't want to lose money, so we're going to take it off the shelf. We're gonna marinate it in some seasonings or whatever so the smell could go away. We're going to hit it with some meat and food coloring to bring the life back into it, repackage it, and put it right back out there and just change the date. Change the date. That's all. And some fool is gonna come in and buy that shit. When he gets home and he's eating it, he's gonna notice that this shit is something off about it. But his mind is like, okay, well, it doesn't normally happen like that, so it's probably just me. That's how they get you. All right, that's how they get you. But if one person was to go in there and be like, hey man, the meat that you guys are selling is all rotten and messed up, man, start making mad noise, everybody's watching and looking, they'll give that nigga a refund and give him a new package, fresh meat, all that. Why? Because they don't want that negative attention. See? Every evildoer does not want to be exposed to the world. See what I'm saying? Because what they're doing is evil, is wicked. And naturally people will always, well, nowadays it's a different world, but naturally in a sane world, outside of this insane mental asylum that we're living in known as Babylon the Great, people would typically resist any form of evil, at least to the degree in which we're living in now. Right? Blatant evil, wickedness. But they've been duped as well. So when you drink of that golden cup, yeah, there's a lot of things that you be sedated where you can't even resist or whatever. That's them Diddy parties for you. Right? It says regulation day approaches in the UK as child online safety laws kick into high gear. See, everything is moving quick. Right? NEC and keyless. Okay. Keyless identity high marks. Ooh, the word mark, right? High marks in NIST face biometric benchmark. Right. Simprints celebrates scale of biometrically verified health services in 2024. That was last year. Right. Crazy. Clearview AI removes founder from board. That means they're about to make a major move, and he was probably in opposition against that. So they gotta get him up out of there. Right. So they can move on. So we pay attention to see what Clearview gonna be doing soon, right? We're gonna be watching. Okay. It says EU unveils biggest AI strategy yet, including simplifying the AI Act. Okay. So they gotta simplify means they have to make it more streamlined and appear to be much more convenient. So that's why people want to opt into it. Okay. And let's see if we got a little bit more of these headlines here. Everything was running smooth. As soon as I started doing the video, all of a sudden shit can't load. There you go. It says here, Switzerland EID digital wallet open for public testing. There you go. Let's click on that. This is interesting. Digital wallet open for public testing. This is a good one right here. See what we got. I'm gonna breeze right through this real quick, see what we got, and then we'll go from there. Right? It says Switzerland has begun public testing for its national electronic identity, allowing citizens to use a beta version of the Swiu digital wallet app. There you go. Okay, see how close we are to this thing? See, it starts with apps, and then soon it just becomes the CHIP, you know what, right? The trial has been open since late March and enables users to create a fictitious EID. One of these features available is identity verification, which demonstrates how users can show data from their EID card. Users, for instance, can choose to display only their date of birth to verify their age when buying age-restricted products. The verification is conducted by scanning a QR code generated by the seller, Swiss Info reports. The testing is part of a technical implementation plan, right, presented by the Swiss government in December. Damn. So December came, January, February, March is already out. 3 months, really? That's how you know they've been working on this for years, right? Because in 3 months, you're not going to bring in no new technology and it's just going to be good. You got to go through testing, for real, you know? So it says here, the deadline for the full EID launch has been set for 2026, while the government has allocated 100 million francs, which is equivalent to about $113 million, all right, for the project. It says before its launch, however, authorities will need to convince the public to cast their votes for the initiative in a referendum, which will likely take place this fall/autumn. A previous proposal, which would have allowed private companies to manage Swiss citizen data, was shot down in a 2021 referendum. This Swiss government has taken a different approach. You see, the repackaging, right? With the new EID to ensure private data will be protected. That's part of the rhetoric. That's part of the sales pitch. Okay, it's part of the sales pitch. It's something called weasel words. Okay, weasel words. Weasel words are basically words that are used to create what is known as what's that word? What's the phrase? Plausible deniability. That's what it is, right? And plausible deniability is being able to say something or do something, but it's done indirectly or said indirectly. Where if there's some type of backlash, you can always run back to and say, well, I didn't say that. Technically, you thought this is what I said, but that's not what I said. That's plausible deniability, right? To say, you know, come buy my car and get an oil change from me, which will be 100 times better than the oil change that you get from somebody else. Well, 100 times better, we can't really do physical comparisons to know if it's really going to do it 100 times better. Somebody might get it 50 times better. Somebody might get it 120% or 120 times better. You never know. But 100 times better is just better in my mind, right? So if I go and get that oil change, I come back and something wrong goes on with my car, I'll say, well, I never said that your car is not going to go bad. I just said it's going to run better. That's all I said, right? So it's always some form of funny little verbiage that they use so they don't get sued or trapped or any of that, right? So these words, you know, go into the concept of legalese, right? They use specific jargon that the average person can't understand unless you actually go to law school and you actually understand what they're talking about. All right, so it says here, the trust infrastructure will need to guarantee high levels of privacy and prevent tracing EIDs to individuals, right? But the government is going to be able to do that because they're coming up with the idea. See, it says the Council of States has requested that the EID temporarily be stored in a specially designed federal wallet. Ooh, there you go. Private wallet creators would be allowed to store and present the EID in the future. The trusted infrastructure will allow both the government and the private sector to issue digital credentials per Swiss Info. There you go. There you go. This is the system. This is the MOTB system being created right in front of us. Okay, so what do you think is next? It says one of the first documents expected to launch is a mobile driving license, which they're working on here, even in the States, right? Your real ID and so on and so forth. It's all going to turn digital. Okay. Authorities are also planning on offering other digital credentials, including criminal records, residence certificates, and more. Okay. So there's just wanted to, you know, touch on that real quick. Just to give you a little temperature check to see what's actually going on in the system, in here in Babylon and around the world. Okay. And to show you, all right, highlight just how close we are, all right, to this thing popping off very soon. Okay. But yeah, I just want to bring that out real quick. Lord willing, you were edified and informed. In closing, I'd like to give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash, the water Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Shalom.